welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today we are going through Sector 445, and on this episode, Brokehead Core Companion, we have the return of Scott and Julian from the Lazy Gaming Guys. They've been on before, and you can see them every Wednesday on YouTube. Say hi and welcome back to the show.
Hello, and thanks for having us back.
Hello,
it's been
everybody.
A while.
Yes, it has been. We're older, stronger, more wiser.
I don't know about the last part.
That's a lie. We're not wiser. We've actually retreated back into worse habits.
Both Julian and Scott, they were awesome on Discord because they agreed to be a part of the maybe once a month or once every 2 months, because I was very fortunate in having several of the Brokehead Core members come forward and help with the co-host slot. So I really appreciate, and I want to thank you both for coming on the show and helping keeping the show going.
No problem. It's always fun to be on.
It's always fun to help a friend keep the lights on.
That's right. It really is. So let's go ahead and jump straight into some news. First bit of news here is on the game preservation group called Forest of Illusion. It uploaded the unreleased build of the N64's Dinosaur Planet last week. And in case you didn't know, this was the original game that eventually Miyamoto said, look, it's already an animal creature. Why don't we just make it in the Star Fox universe? And that's when they delayed the game, released it on GameCube, known as Star Fox Adventures. But we never really got to play that original Dinosaur Planet, and they got their hands on it. Did you have any experience or thoughts on Dinosaur Planet? Let's start off with Scott.
Not really. It's kind of cool. You can definitely see where a lot of the similarities are, but you can also see quite a bit of the differences. It's neat, though, that they found the build, because before we only had some screenshots and things like that of Dinosaur Planet. So we knew that it was based off of that, and we had the screenshots, but we never knew more than that.
I remember there was a trailer that they released, and it was like a 90s trailer where you see all the square blocks. It's not in high definition, and you can see some of the fighting mechanics. You see an early version of Crystal, which they moved over. Do you remember seeing any of that in the 90s, Julian?
I actually was watching a video talking about Star Fox stuff, and I remember seeing the pre-build of Crystal where she's like, it's like it barely looks even the same. It's just like it's a fox with boobs. And then I did play Star Fox Adventures, and if it was anything similar to that, it's like, okay, so it's like there's weapon, there's you're a furry with weapons fighting dinosaurs and junk. And the only issue is that the Star Fox elements felt kind of forced. So it's like, and then when I found out later on in life it was a different game, I was always curious about what the original game would have been like before Miyamoto said, let's put Fox in it.
I know they called it like The Legend of Zelda, but with Star Fox in it. And Star Fox is probably my favorite franchise from Nintendo, even more so than, I don't even know if you want to count Pokemon since it's the Pokemon company, but that's my main thing. Yeah. When I played Star Fox Adventures, I loved it still because it had the characters that I enjoyed, and it had a couple of flight missions. But as you mentioned, Julian, it did feel like they tacked on the characters of Star Fox into that world. And it always feels like Star Fox is that series that they keep experimenting with. They keep trying new things. And even with Star Fox Zero, they're like, all right, let's put in all of these flight motions into the game to make it so that it's still not like the N64 or Super NES Star Fox. It's just really bizarre how they can't seem to really get a handle on the franchise.
What's really weird about it, too, is that the ones that do the best are just literally recreations of Star Fox 1 or 64. When they just keep remaking that game, it does amazing. When they try something new, it's very hit or miss.
As a Metroid fan, I understand this.
Metroid pinball.
It's like whenever they try to, I got into it I got into it late, because I never had a Nintendo growing up. I had Sega and PlayStation, but when I got Prime, I'm like, oh, let me look into all these Infusion. Let me look into all these other old freaking Metroid games, and then I'm like, oh wow, this series is great. And then it's like nothing after Metroid Prime 3, and then they tried to do Federation Force on the 3DS, and that was weird. And then Other M, they tried to make it an action game, and it has the elements too, but then it just failed in execution.
The gameplay was really fun in that game. It was the story that was not very good.
Well, because it's Ninja Gaiden with Samus, so it's what do you? It was a good game.
It was really cool, and then the story was just really bad.
It's like Samus.
But then you also had Return of Samus on the 3DS, which was a remake of the original Metroid 2.
Yeah, but that's the same exact elements of when it's not them trying to do something new. It's just them remaking it.
Yeah, but they made it actually playable. Metroid 2 was kind of a terrible game.
It was a Game Boy game, Scott. Let it go.
Yeah, I know.
It's not that. It's it's like, let me remind you that not every Game Boy game can be Pokemon. It's like use very minimal things and then get
Link's
somewhere.
Awakening wasn't Pokemon, and that was amazing.
But that was also them doing, like, they already done something like that, a top-down thing with Zelda already. It's just on a smaller system.
That is one thing that Metroid and Star Fox fans, as you said, go hand in hand. It does feel like Metroid is getting a little bit more love these days. We're getting that maybe Metroid Prime at some point in the future, and so far I haven't heard any news on anything Star Fox. But this Dinosaur Planet unreleased build came from a private collector in Sweden somewhere, and the group purchased it from them. So that makes me curious as to what other gems this collector has, whether they got it from a developer straight up, or maybe they did work for one of these companies. But I don't know why that sounds fancy and mysterious to me at the same time. A private collector in Sweden. I want to know what they had. Unfortunately, the build will not run perfectly on emulators. You will need a little bit of hacking and tweaking to make Dinosaur Planet fully playable to the end of the game, but I'm sure probably at the time that we've recorded this, someone has already fixed that issue. People are really quick at getting these types of things out there and playable for fans of all of this.
Yeah, I'm sure someone will upload a ROM that has all of those patches and tweaks and all that in there so that it's 100% playable.
Open those third eyes, people. Get those hacker brains going for those of us who lack computer skills.
Are there any unreleased games, just to wrap up this news story, that either of you would like to one day play on an emulator? Start off with Julian.
I remember back during the Space World demo for Legend of Zelda. I know everybody's like, oh, I like Wind Waker and all, but I would have liked to seen what they would have done with that old build that they had for that, if they had actually done anything before they changed their mind.
Yeah, that was kind of like an N64 remake. It looked more like N64 polished Zelda rather than Twilight Princess Zelda.
Mm-hmm. Before that, back when everything had to be dark and grainy.
How about you, Scott?
I don't really have an unreleased game, so much as builds. I would love to play some of the, after seeing the Gold and Silver Pokemon builds that came out, the beta builds, like the Diamond and Pearl and other generations of Pokemon builds would be really cool as beta forms or alpha forms, just to see all of the unreleased Pokemon that were in it.
That's a really good
forms of those blobs
Pokemon. That no one cares about. I got it.
With the original evolutions and pre-evolutions.
Right. Back when baby forms they evolved through level up. It's not anything else. You had original forms of the Pokemon. Things like Blastoise being originally its own line and not part of the Squirtle line. So, things like that I think would be really cool to go back and play and find out more about them. So hopefully more Pokemon betas and alphas will get kind of dumped in the future, like Gold and Silver with the Space World demo, which was a huge find.
Starting to see a lot of Space World love here.
Really good answers, absolutely. And this is one of the benefits to having guys like Julian and Scott on the podcast, because we can do more video game news whenever you guys are on. And this is something that you're both going to have way more expertise on, is the most recent Nintendo Direct. It sounds like you both saw the Direct, or at least kept up on the news. So I'll let you take it from here. What were some of the bigger hits or highlights from last week's Direct?
So we're going to start, I guess, with Smash. The Smash reveal of the new
haters gonna hate, get mad.
Yep.
because
Pyrrha and Mithra from Xenoblade Chronicles. And then everyone immediately complained that it's another anime swords fighter because they couldn't complain that it was a Fire Emblem character.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to find something else to complain about with it.
Are they the same one character and then you can swap between them?
Yes,
yeah, it plays like Zelda and Sheik. Yep.
Gotcha.
But it's like instant instead of like that 3 second long, 5 second long animation, which essentially leaves you wide open for attacks, and that's why they split them up in the first place. And then now it's like they finally were able to implement it properly. So now it's like you can just switch. It's like you just press a button and it's like bam, you're Mithra now, or bam, you're switched back to Pyra, and Pyra is more power based. Like she's stronger.
Yeah,
while
the
Mithra's
slower, stronger.
And is this the last of the characters in this current block of reveals, or do we have more DLC
I
coming?
believe there's two characters left.
Okay.
There's 2 more characters left.
So there's still 2 more slots left, and I'm sure there's going to be a Fighters Pass 3. Like
there should be.
I think this is going to be pretty much the standard for Smash Brothers, at least for a time, is just to keep releasing fighters as DLC instead of releasing an entirely new game.
Putting aside like the logical pick of realistically they'd probably go with this. What is your dream character addition that you would want in any future fighter pass?
So I would say either Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
This is why let's go first. I don't want to sound redundant.
I would love to see, it doesn't matter what character, but a character from Senran Kagura.
Gotcha.
Really? If
Boob
ninjas?
Yeah. Boob ninjas. Like, you wanted to know. That is my answer.
Yeah, fine. I did ask. My mistake. I should have known better. Anyway, for my pick, besides Sora, because Kingdom Hearts fans, hi, hello. My other pick would have been, people have been throwing this around, like a Rhythm Heaven character, which uses some of the old Rhythm Heaven like stuff you do as attacks. There's this thing on the DS where you had to play as choir boys, and like one of you has to sing and stuff. Where it's like one of the attacks is pretty much you like do this loud scream, and it's like this little like a burst, like this little like burst attack in front of you or something. Or my third pick, sadly, would have been another Pokemon, which people also bitch about that. If they released another Pokemon, they would have been mad too.
Of course,
because they're pleasing these Smash Brothers, some of these Smash Brothers fans. But my other pick for Pokemon, I would have loved to see. Recently, they came out in Necrozma, but it's a legendary, and they rarely do legendaries as playable Pokemon.
Yeah, I think it's just Mewtwo right now, right?
Yes, just Mewtwo. Yeah. It's just Mewtwo because Mewtwo's so popular that they're not gonna. It's kind of like how Lucario was. It's like it got so popular that they're not gonna. It's not like they're not gonna use it.
And if we're throwing 3 in, like 3 characters, Kazuma Kiryu from Yakuza.
Of course.
That would be amazing.
What else ended up coming out of the Nintendo Direct?
So we also have a new Mario Golf title for anyone that's sports inclined. And that one will have a new feature called Speed Golf. Where
you mean Super Smash Golf?
Like you tee off, and then you all just run to where your ball lies and try to sink it in the hole real quick and move on to the next hole. And the goal is just to finish the 18 holes the fastest.
That sounds like what you do
at putt golf. Super fun.
The place is going to close in an hour and they let you in. And it's like, everybody hurry up and putt your stuff when they close.
Get done quick. Like you're on the clock.
I'll play Super Smash Golf. Absolutely.
Actually,
it's going to be great.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to another one of our streaming that.
Hosts Omni, we were all happy about it. We're all like, we're gonna get it first thing, right? Like, yep.
Awesome. So you can stream Congo River Mario Golf.
Congo, yes.
And
I was thinking
Pirate story mode,
Pirates Island,
where you can level up a character and go through the plot.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, it's different in the Mario series. They've never done that.
One of the Mario Golfs has in the past, but it was a Game Boy Advance title.
It had a story mode?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought it was the Game Boy game.
I know.
The Game Boy game was tennis.
Tennis. The Game Boy Tennis one had a story mode. So very few of them, and it was always typically the Game Boy ones that had a story mode for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of us have touched a Mario Golf game since Toadstool Tour on the GameCube.
Yep. So that'll be fun.
Because everybody had like $5 back then and went to GameStop and it's like, I need a GameCube game. And it's like, hey, look, Toadstool Torch crazy cheap.
Always was one of the cheaper
Yeah.
Mario games. I'm guessing we didn't get any Pokemon news because they like to save that for its own direct.
Pokemon
basically.
is announcing their information tomorrow.
Awesome.
That
Well,
time of recording.
The time of
It's
this
on the
recording,
26th.
February 26th.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So,
And if you want to
Um,
know any information about it, you can always check out Lazy Gaming Guys
Yeah.
on Wednesdays.
the Wednesday after the time of this recording will be up, or just any Wednesday, go back and check. We will be talking about it.
Or if it's
The
big enough
Wednesday
news, I'll
after
rant
the
about it on
recording.
Twitter for 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'll definitely hear the guys talk about it on the stream, and also Bobby will be on next week, so he's definitely Mr. Pokemon, and I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
cover that
I'm
next
sure.
week too. Any other
Um,
Nintendo Direct news?
So we also have, for the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary, they're doing Skyward Sword HD.
That's
for the
right.
Switch.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
So that'll be coming from the Wii U, or from the original Wii all the way to the Switch.
Weren't
And in
people-
order to deal with the Wiimote controls, it's now mapped to the right analog stick.
Mhm.
So you'll swing the sword up if you push up on the right analog stick, down, left, and right. Or you can also use the actual Wii motion to play it, like as Joy-Cons, which is really cool.
As God intended.
you have the
no,
option there.
I would both, because no, motion controls suck.
I'm pretty happy about the stick being used instead, because that was one of the things that I couldn't finish Skyward Sword because of that. And that's the same thing with Star Fox Zero. The motion controls, I don't know if I just wasn't good at using it, but I struggled a lot trying to play Skyward Sword.
Even with the Wii Motion Plus, it still wasn't a very good motion control at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think they
It's still
expected
a
you to be
very young
standing
technology.
up and doing all these motions while doing this, and they forget that gamers are lazy.
I would also they announced the Skyward Sword themed Joy-Cons to go with that, which have already gone up for pre-order, and they already sold out.
Of
At the
course.
time of this recording, they're still sold out.
They are going for around $150 to $200 on eBay.
What's the SRP on them?
I believe $70 or $80.
Joy-Cons.
Yeah. So,
Ex-
but one's
expensive,
themed
will
to the
break.
Master Sword, and one is themed to the Hyrulean Shield. So they're really cool looking,
Mhm.
but good luck getting one without paying an outrageous price.
And then if you do get one, don't use them.
You gotta
Because
try to collect them. It's absolutely a collector, or it's a seller's market, and that's a sad thing that it's on everything. It's on gaming,
Yeah.
consoles, obviously Pokemon, comics. Everything is right now very much a seller's market.
like, I can't wait till people start collecting something even more ridiculous, like phone charger cables.
It's gonna happen.
And then I think the last one we'll touch upon is that No More Heroes 3 got a release date now
All right,
of August 27th. So
that's great.
Well, I have one more
looking
thing.
forward to that.
I don't want to.
I still need to finish No More Heroes 2, but I absolutely love that series, and I'm definitely looking forward to the third one.
I have still not touched the second one yet. I beat the first one, but I haven't touched the second one yet.
Oh, I guess we can talk about one that's more specifically related to comic books that was
Sure.
announced, which was DC Superhero Girls Teen Power.
All right.
I have seen 2 episodes
So
of that show.
it's a beat 'em up game, like
Okay.
an old school beat 'em up game with some RPG elements themed to the DC Superhero Girls.
I'm assuming this
and
is
it actually
downloadable
looks
only.
pretty good. No, I believe it's also going to get a physical release.
Okay, that's cool.
So, and this comes out June 4th
And I'm
for anyone
guessing
that would like it.
it's based on the designs from the My Little Pony, the recent My Little Pony
it's
creator, right?
The designs from the series, like
Hmm.
ripped straight out of it.
Okay, that makes sense, because
So
I know
there's like customizable outfits and things like that.
they've been pushing that recent show more than, because DC Superhero Girls came out as a YouTube, I guess, I don't even know if you want to call it a show, but it was a bunch of shorts, and they kept on the same voice actors for when they eventually aired it on television, but they redid the characters to fit more, I guess, a more modern take on the characters, and they made them cooler. You know, if I were a little girl, I would think the newer designs are cooler than what they went with originally, which was a more maybe Barbie-ish design, but this time they're more refined to probably be better used as action figures and video games and on t-shirts, just to make them more usable on all forms of media. So it sounds like it's working out pretty well for them.
Yeah, take
Yeah.
notes, Powerpuff Girls remake. Freaking,
So I
if you're
mean,
gonna
the
if you're gonna
game
bring
looks
something
fun.
out, actually make it interesting.
Like you might even see that game streamed on LGG at some point in the future.
Sounds good. If it's fun, it's fun, right? Beat 'em ups, you can't really go
Exactly.
wrong. It's hard to screw up a beat 'em up.
See, that was
That
the
means
whole
I'm gonna have
thing.
to buy this, aren't I?
It very much reminds me if anyone's played like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or X-Men Legends back on the PS2.
Don't talk about X-Men Legends.
It's very much looks similar to that.
Scott, you had mentioned
So-
that you wanted Sora and Julian as well on Super Smash Brothers. There's also this unfortunate news that Kingdom of Hearts, the mobile game, is ending.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was announced today that Kingdom Hearts Union Cross and Dark Road will both be ending on May 30th.
Yeah,
this year.
Tetsuya Nomura put out a Tetsuya Nomura, the creator of Kingdom Hearts, put out a message on there about that, and I read it, and it's like, wow. Does that mean that we're gonna get some kind of port of it soon, of the full
So-
game soon, hopefully?
No.
So the people who are lost in this game actually get some kind
We
of
won't
clarity.
be getting a port from what we can tell, but an offline version will be available.
Oh, thank God.
So you can still play through the game in an offline mode. And as far as with Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, it actually wasn't finished. The creation of it wasn't finished. So they will be finishing that game all the way up until its ending, just as an offline game.
It sounds like to me that the way they're ending this is to really appease the fans and make sure that, you know, if we're going to end this, they're still able to access the story and finish the game instead of just, nope, if you didn't finish it, that's it, it's done, sorry, watch a Let's Play.
If you can find
Yeah,
a person actually
it's-
let's playing it.
Yeah, most people
In
don't
English.
tend to Let's Play the cell phone games, but it is at least nice that they're doing an offline mode where, you know, a fan of the game can still play it because it all is still canon to the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Not 100% necessary, but still canon to the plot. So you can experience it if you'd like, and if not, Kingdom Hearts 2.8 had a very good rundown in video form of the main plot points you need to know.
Up to Kingdom Hearts 3 anyway.
Yeah, but that's all that's relevant currently.
Well, there's still plenty
Everything
of other
else
things that doesn't talk about.
Everything else is flavor to the game, but you don't 100% need to know it.
I still think
I
it'd be
mean,
necessary.
yeah, you
for
have
them to
Marluxia and
know.
Larxene used to know each other back in the day, and that, you
There's
know,
still this mysterious chick.
Marluxia killed Larxene's sister, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to know that for any of the Kingdom Hearts games. So
Still got a couple of the mysterious characters, and my vet is there, but I'm not gonna get into that.
Well, you're talking about canon, and this is perfect because Nickelodeon is actually adding to the Avatar: The Last Airbender canon with launching Avatar Studios, and this is set to expand the Last Airbender universe. They're kicking it off with a new movie. Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, the creators of the original series, are working on a new animated feature that will be set in the same universe as the acclaimed TV series. And according to IndieWire, Avatar Studios will create various animated series and films based in that world. And famously, the two co-creators were originally involved in the Netflix upcoming live-action adaptation of The Last Airbender, but exited in August of last year. Thankfully, it sounds like Nickelodeon was able to bring them back onto the studio and expand the lore of the original Avatar series. It sounds like we're getting spin-offs. We're getting even more from The Last Airbender rather than just a one-off special or the live-action series. Let's start off with Julian. What are your thoughts on this one?
That's good because, boy, after some of the stuff I read about the live action series and where it's trying to go, it's like I feel like it's like we're changing it, so this will be something for Netflix. It's like this is the Netflix Avatar, not Netflix Avatar: Last Airbender, not your Nickelodeon cartoon Airbender. No, this is not what the people wanted. We want something different. And then the creators of Avatar just said, no, that's not what people want. They've already been burned by someone trying to make their own creative decisions about how the Last Airbender works. And then we got that movie back in what was it, 20?
it was early
11?
2000s.
Like 11, 10, I can't
Early
remember.
2010, somewhere around there. It was bad.
It was terrible and boring.
What was Netflix
Terrible.
trying to change? Did they go into specifics on what they were trying to change with compared to the original?
They were
So-
trying to age up characters, and they were also trying to add in like sex. They were trying to add in a lot more adult themes.
And the
so to
recent
speak.
controversy is that they changed Sokka and Katara's genders.
Gotcha.
So Katara's a male and is the one, and Sokka is now. So they're trying to make. They apparently is supposed to be female, from what I've read. I don't know if they. It was apparently it was heavily rumored that they've been doing this, and then everybody's been uproar about that. It's like, why change Katara, who was supposed to be badass waterbender girl? She goes from like barely able to like make a puddle to like freaking being the best waterbender in the entire world. It's like, why would you change that?
It sounds like they were trying to make the show grow up with its audience, because the audience has obviously since then grown up, but also at the same time trying to put their own stamp on it to, as you mentioned, Julian, say this is Netflix's Last Airbender. And obviously the co-creators, if you piss them off enough, or if you change it enough to where they're like, okay, well, it's not really our world anymore, that's also going to resonate badly with the fans, because then the fans are going to go, well, if the co-creators aren't on board, then why should I be on board?
I've already been burned before with these Netflix live action adaptations. I didn't expect the Death Note one to follow the exact manga of Death Note word for word. I was thinking, okay, they're gonna westernize it. I'm okay with this. I want to see what they do with it. And even taking it as its own thing, it's just not even interesting at all. Because with any kind of adaptation that these days, I've been more open-minded in saying, okay, let's see what they do with this idea and see how, if they're going to change something, you better make it actually something interesting. Because if you don't make it interesting, everyone's going to see where you made changes, unnecessary changes, and where like you're trying to be like, see, look, hint, hint, we know about the old series, and then it's like, no, we don't want hints. It's like, if you're going to change something, make your own thing. Just use the important things. Like, if you're gonna make your own Avatar series, at least make it like, okay, so we do what? So it's like I don't know, back in another time or something, or like a different telling of how the story went down. Like how in the actual show they had like the Firebenders retelling the entirety of the series through the eyes of the Firebenders, where they don't even have Aang's gender right at all, but it was still entertaining because it was like they thought he was it's like it's a parody. At least it's like it's something different and made sense.
And Scott, are you on the same boat? Are you excited for Avatar Studios, and what spin-off stories would you like to see?
So I am excited for it. The creators have kind of earned my trust on that one of being good, and I would really hope that they eventually adapt the comic books. I think that would be a really neat thing to do. I'm not going to hold out hope for it, because I would like to also see original, ideas and adventures for the characters to go on. But I would also like to see something where it's maybe set in the far future, where Aang and their adventures are a distant memory, and we get to see how the world's kind of evolved, or even a far past one,
so even,
where we're seeing previous avatars.
Even after Korra, then you're talking far future.
Yeah, where even the events of Korra are just legend and myth. I think that would be kind of cool.
I'd like to see them bring back the silly Avatar shorts that they had back during when the show was there. They had like an episode where they had a bunch of like tiny Avatar shorts where they're like all small and being goofy and ridiculous, and it's like that'd be nice to see something like that again, or like come up with some ideas, come up with some more. I feel like Korra had a couple things that they could have had a couple more things happen in the show, like show off a few more things, or like her training in some of her training in the other styles, or how Aang came up with like how they got like that whole city started and everything, and if there were any tribulations and stuff, because it didn't seem like the whole thing was like made with like in a day with normal stuff. And I want to see how I want more of the world, because it was so interesting. My biggest issue with this whole the original creators of the series being pissed off at Netflix is because there is another show on Netflix that was done by the same. Well, I don't think the same team did it, but at least part of the writing staff did. I don't know if this is going to affect the oh god, I forgot the name of the show. Damn it. I feel so bad for forgetting this name. Because they had another show on Netflix. It was about like this kid who ends up having to like return this dragon egg to its mother. Freaking, I forgot. It's called Son of Son. It's called the Dragon Child or something. I forget the name of it because it's been so long since I've seen it, because I haven't had Netflix myself in a while. But it was an interesting show, and I don't know. And if the creators of Avatar like went on their own thing, I don't know. I wonder if the writing staff for that show is going to go with them, and that's gonna. But it's gonna suck. But Netflix, it's like, come on, you guys, you can't fuck this stuff up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it sounds like they're departing from Netflix and maybe taking, like you mentioned, it might be possible that they're taking some of the writing staff with them. But Nickelodeon is obviously welcoming them back in with open arms. And I think Avatar Studio is expanding. They have a lot of faith still in the Last Airbender universe. And I think the fans, I've seen it at the comic shop. I still sell out of the Last Airbender comic book compilations, and it just started happening last year, because I used to have those for months and they wouldn't move, and to the point where I stopped reordering them. And it wasn't until last year when they added the Last Airbender back onto Netflix. Everyone got back into it. People that grew up with the show that now had kids got their kids into it. And suddenly the omnibuses and everything, Dark Horse was caught off guard too, where they were like, oh shit, we stopped printing some of these. Let's do new printings of them. And I'm like, all right, this is great. I hope the bubble doesn't burst soon. And thankfully it sounds like it won't. So I think this is great for Last Airbender fans and for new ones too that just got reintroduced to it thanks to the Netflix cartoon. We got some comic book news as well this week. At the Comics Pro retailer event, Image Comics president Todd McFarlane revealed that the Department of Truth by James Tynion IV, who is currently writing Batman, and Martin Simmons is being churned into a television series. No word yet on which network or streaming service has picked up the series. Are either of you familiar with the plot of Department of Truth?
I have never heard of this before.
I wasn't until I had looked it up before recording, and it sounds exactly like something I'd read.
So, Julian,
sounds really cool.
The idea is, if enough people, and I know where James Tynion got this from, because I went on a Wikipedia, after I read the Department of Truth, the first couple of issues, I went into a Wikipedia, Alice in Wonderland, rabbit hole of let me look up all these conspiracy theories that are in this comic book, some of which I wasn't familiar with. And I got, an hour later, I came across this quote from a grieving parent from one of the false flag conspiracy operations things, where he's like, look, it hurts that these people are saying that my child really isn't dead and that he's a child actor. And there's a quote that says, unfortunately, with these things, if enough people believe it, it becomes real to them. And that's where James Tynion got the idea of this comic book, where there's this organization that's trying to, for example, the first issue is the flat earth theory, where if enough people believe in the flat earth, that it starts becoming real on Earth. And then what they do is they go to the edge of the earth, which is Antarctica in the first comic, and they start seeing evidence of a flat earth, a drop off. So what they're doing is they're going to that point, trying to take pictures of it and showing the rest of the world, because if they do that and the rest of the world sees, oh my God, the earth really is flat, the earth then becomes flat. Like, reality shifts and it doesn't shift right then. What it does is it changes history as well. So this group is trying to benefit from these changes to become, powerful in that reality or become rich in that reality. And the Department of Truth is trying to preserve the world at reality as is. And so what they do is they kill these members or these people that are trying to change reality. And that's what the book is about. Every issue, it's them trying to, silence or try to preserve the world from the reptoids and the reptilians and all that. So it's really interesting. And I'm glad that it got picked up as a TV series, because I think as a movie, it wouldn't quite work. I think as a TV series, you can explore different conspiracies with each episode.
And looking at these covers, it seems it's like, yeah, you got some Illuminati looking stuff going on over here. So it's like, that sounds interesting. I don't the art style it's like grainy and like it looks interesting. I don't know if I'd like go too deep into it, because I'm more of a fantasy type person, though. It's like, it has to be fantastical for me to read it most of the time. But like, the stuff seems cool. It's like, like I said, it's like this whole this whole thing is like goes over my head a little bit. But from what you told me about, it's like, yeah, this would be up Scott's alley.
It's funny that you bring up
Yeah.
the artwork because Martin Simmons is traditionally a digital artist, but for this comic, he went with regular pen and ink and colors, and he actually goes through and scratches up those pages so that it does have that grainy look. So that's interesting that you brought that up, and that he's working differently on this comic. What are your thoughts on this, Scott?
I honestly think it sounds really cool. I don't know if I'll get to the comic book anytime soon, but I definitely would like to watch the series. I do think that from hearing your full-on description, that it does sound like something that would benefit from a TV series standpoint, because then you could have an episode or two dealing with the whole flat Earth issue, and then an episode or two dealing with another conspiracy theory and stuff like that, and give it more time to shine and fully flesh it out versus a movie format or something like that where it needs to be done quickly.
For content like this, I feel like it'd be best on a streaming service rather than on a TV channel, because you can really, this is going to be an R-rated show. Just based on the comic alone. So I think like HBO Max or Netflix, something that traditionally picks up more adult content would be best for this show.
Yeah, just look, the little bit I've looked at kind of suggests that as well, that it's going to be a very tonally adult series, and there's no way around it.
Like a lot of Image Comics.
Speaking of HBO Max, we are going to get Godzilla vs. Kong on that streaming service next month. And in an interview with Collider, the director Adam Wingard revealed that this sequel will be tonally different than the underperforming Godzilla King of the Monsters. His quote here is, quote, "One of the reasons why Warner Brothers brought me on is I think a follow-up to King of the Monsters is because I am so different than Michael Dougherty as a director. I mean, he definitely leans more into the kind of horror realm, and his approach to Godzilla is really kind of scary in a lot of ways. And I think that they knew that the next film after that had to be different regardless of how it was going to be received. And I think I was kind of chosen ultimately because my take was always going to be tonally very fun and colorful and all those kinds of things." And quote, "Are you worried about this change in tone?" Start off with Scott.
Yes. Well, I can say a confident yes and no. Yes, I'm afraid that it's going to be the Thor Ragnarok of the Godzilla and Kong universe. But also from the trailer, it didn't seem that way. It felt totally different, but it didn't feel like they were going too far into the fun and wacky so much as just not as dark and gritty. But I personally loved War of the Monsters, or King of the Monsters. I loved the darker tone. I loved the pacing of it. I thought it was a really well done movie, and I was so happy I saw it in theaters because it was well worth seeing in theaters.
I hope to see this in theaters too, but if Kong and Godzilla bump fists, I'm going to be pissed. Or if they dab or some shit.
They have a dance battle.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's what it's going to be, the end of Guardians 1. What do you think, Julian?
Adam Wingard. Oh boy. I do he has directing credits for a show that we just got done talking about. Because I remember like his name sounded familiar, and I looked it up, and so he has directing part of the directing credits for the Death Note series on Netflix.
Oh boy!
I was with hope.
That did not fill me with hope at all. I started, but I said, you know what? And then also he's done a couple of horror things, like the 2016 Blair Witch remake. Which it's okay, now you made the Blair Witch actually something I could follow, figure out what the fuck is going on here, instead of just somebody's random shaky cam footage that I could have done at 5 years old. And then there's a lot of horror. There's a random horror stuff on here. Besides that little tidbit, it's one, at least it's not an adaptation. Well, it is an adaptation if you think about it. But Godzilla versus King Kong, the original one made by Toho, was hilariously ridiculous. Freaking random Japanese people in blackface. Fucking scale wonk when it came to King Kong holding the woman, where it's she goes from in his palm, the side barely fitting in his palm, till 20 feet tall, the 20-foot tall woman, where it's like because Godzilla and King Kong had to be scaled up, and unfortunately, if he's holding the woman, for them to see it, she had to be like, she accidentally got scaled up as well. So it's like, holy god, that woman grew like 50 feet or something. But it's like it's an old '70s movie, and I'm not gonna give it too much. And then it's like Toho, so I'm not gonna give them too much problems back then. But we'll see what happens. I'm cautiously optimistic now. I went from I want to see this movie to still don't want to see this movie, but I'm cautiously optimistic to see how this goes down.
It's unfortunate that King of the Monsters underperformed because this was originally set to be one of 2 more sequels, and they have since cut down the runtime, I believe, to under 2 hours or just over 2 hours, and are instead counting this as like the end of the current Warner Brothers Godzilla MonsterVerse. And it's unfortunate, and I hope that we do get at least an entertaining fight between the two. I hope we do get a winner out of this, but the director also revealed that the severed Ghidorah head in the post-credit scene from King of the Monsters will be referenced in Godzilla vs. Kong. He wouldn't go into too many details about that, so it sounds like that part at least plays a pretty big role in the plot, as opposed to what I thought was going to happen, where they were just going to ignore it since they made that scene knowing that originally there was going to be 2 more films. But now it seems like they were able to at least work it in somewhere into the film so that we're not just left hanging on that end.
Yeah, which is at least nice. I hope one day we'll get a director's cut where we'll see the original version, or at least as deleted scenes and stuff like that, and find out exactly what happened. Because I've personally loved this MonsterVerse.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to buy the original Godzilla and Kong Skull Island, but having watched them all, I absolutely love them. I think they did a great job with this MonsterVerse, and it's sad to kind of see it go.
This movie will be available on March 31st in theaters and on HBO Max. Before we move on to the Mortal Kombat trailer, from each of you, are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla?
I'm Team
Godzilla
Kong.
all the way.
What was yours, Julian?
King Kong, monkey.
All right, there we go. Finally,
I like primates.
The whole time it was Kelly was always Team Godzilla, and I finally have one other person. I think it's just you and I, Julian.
Well, everybody's like, Kong has no chance, but it's like, you know what? Well, Godzilla's crazy good, but he still doesn't do very well against other things. So it's like,
they don't call Godzilla
gets to lose against to a monster that has that all his only thing he had going for him was he had a sword for a face.
I heard they do reference why in King of the Monsters Kong doesn't show up. When Ghidorah calls up all the monsters and he is now the alpha monster in the universe, they all come in and they're basically his bitch, right? They're like, oh, we're going to do whatever you want, especially Rodan's fucking ass. Like, I hate that guy. But, but they reference why Kong refused or wasn't able to or whatever to show up to either fight.
The hurricane was just keeping him in there.
Well, I hope it's just that line in the trailer where they're like, he doesn't bow to anyone. He just didn't want to go out there. He's like, no, I don't need to serve you, regardless of whether it's Godzilla or King Ghidorah. I don't care who it is. I don't bow down to any alpha monster. And if that's it, I'm like, that's acceptable. I don't care. That's actually more badass.
Yeah, King Kong, massive dong, let's go.
I always figured it was the same reason why Godzilla didn't bow down.
That's true.
They were both just like alpha monsters where it's like, no, I'm not going to bow down to you. Mm-hmm. You know, I am the king.
You. I have one head. You got 3, bitch. It takes 3 heads to be an alpha. I only got 1.
All right, let's talk about this Mortal Kombat trailer.
Kano wins. You fucking beauty.
It's been several years since we'd gotten a live-action Mortal Kombat movie, and I don't know about you guys, but me as a kid, I loved those movies because I played Mortal Kombat like crazy, and I was just happy to get any video game movie back then. And we got this trailer, which seems like they are, we're getting modern special effects, which I think even for the time, the Mortal Kombat movie did a pretty good job in the 90s. But what were your thoughts on this Mortal Kombat trailer? Started off with Scott.
I think it looks pretty good. I only really had 2 issues with it. The first being I didn't really care for the whole, you have this marking of S, meaning that you're now like in the Mortal Kombat tournament. And so I thought that was kind of stupid.
Yeah.
but I can get over that. The other thing that I thought was weird is that Kano is on the good guy's side,
Right.
which is one thing that I'm like, that is not a thing.
No.
Might betray him.
I don't know. I guess, but he was never on. It's weird, but again, I mean, the characters seem like they're like Kano is cracking the same jokes he would from the series, like from the actual games. You've got a lot of the characters acting like they would in the games. I feel like it's going to be good enough that I can overlook the issues. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I'll watch it and see what it's like and give like a real thing. But currently, excited.
How about you, Julian? First impressions.
Kano's hot. Besides that,
So not Goro, but Kano. Interesting.
yeah,
He's Australian too. But
that doesn't have nothing to do with it. Other than that, the first time I watched the trailer, I'm like, oh, this looks good. I'm interested. Like, I always loved the '90s movie. A part of me has this like small enjoyment for like the second one that they came out with, where as ridiculous as that thing was. Hearing it's like they had to have Scorpion say "get over here" at some point in the trailer. They did, and I'm like, okay, points for you. Now I'm definitely gonna go see this when it eventually comes out. And then at first I'm like, oh, well, look, it's Liu Kang. Oh, he's a modern. It's like, well, you know what? No, let it go. It's like what are they gonna do? Put him in like freaking little red jumpsuit pants and a bandana and stuff. It's not gonna look normal. It's like it's different. I had to turn off your adaptation brain, turn on the adaptation brain and stop being fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still like fanboying throughout the whole thing because Mortal Kombat was my first fighting game on the Sega Genesis with blood and everything. And then I'd watch the movie all the time. Me and my brother Steven would literally just like freaking every time we got into a fight every time we would mess around Mortal Kombat, we'd be doing the music out loud. That's the one thing I hope that they do in the thing. It's like put the music, do it. It's like I don't think
seems at least from the trailer that they are. Like,
That's good.
It seems from the trailer that they're going to. So I'm hoping.
And
the music is iconic.
And as long as Ed Boon doesn't do anything stupid, because Ed Boon is the king of not making good decisions. So let's hope Ed Boon let's have less Ed Boon involvement, and we'll be great.
I didn't do a deep dive into who actually worked on these things, but it reminded me a lot of those online series, the live action ones that they did, especially in the Scorpion and Sub-Zero backstory. I feel like it was almost the exact same crew that worked on this film. And if they didn't, I'm glad they at least tried to make it look like that live action series.
Yeah.
You mean the one on HBO?
Good.
Was it on HBO? I thought it was like shorts that came out on YouTube, like little 10-minute shorts.
No.
I don't know if either of you saw those.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. I forgot. There was a live action series.
Yeah.
There was a live action series, and then there was the animated cartoon, but we don't talk about the animated cartoon because that's like, let's make Mortal Kombat for children by getting rid of all the blood, the boobs.
One thing I thought was interesting in this trailer too, you see how he lost his arms to Sub-Zero, which was crazy. You get some story behind that, but I read that it's not going to be Shao Kahn or who. There was another. I'm blanking on the main bad guy's name right now, but they're not going to be the main villains of the film. But that instead, it's going to be Sub-Zero. So it sounds like a lot of this story is going to be told from maybe Scorpion's side of things, since he's the one that it sounds like is going after Sub-Zero for murdering his family and village many years ago. And I thought that was interesting. Making Sub-Zero the main villain of the film is, I think, a pretty huge step.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. It looks like Shao Kahn will still be in the movie, just to your point, not the main villain or the main
You're thinking
threat.
Shang Tsung, by the way.
There we go. Shang Tsung was the other one. Yep.
Because there's only like three major villains in all of Mortal Kombat: Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung, and Quan Chi.
Darkseid, I think, also. Maybe the Joker.
Well, we did have the crossover with DC.
That's right.
And then there was Unaga from I think Deadly Alliance.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
But
I think
hopefully this also leads into a sequel.
Yes.
But I think that also depends on the reception and everything else.
Yeah, we'll see if there's like a post-credits something, or We'll find out real quick. Oh, I do want to talk about Reptile. What do you guys think about this new kind of more crocodile-ish look to the character, which I know we've seen in the games before, but as opposed to like the regular Green Ninja that they sort of used in the first film?
I'm happy for this. It's like, hey, that's from Deadly
more.
Alliance.
Well, it also makes him more unique than just the Green Ninja dude. It gave him more of a, oh no, that's Reptile. You can see why he's called Reptile.
Right.
It's like he doesn't randomly just like freaking have green eyes and then spits out acid or something, and then freaking when he dies, it turns into a lizard and freaking vaporizes. Yeah, I remember that scene from that movie. A lot of scenes from the movie.
Yeah, let us know, Brokehead Core Companion, what you thought of the Mortal Kombat trailer. The rest of today's news is gonna be Snyder Cut related. The first one here is that DC Comics is releasing 3 Justice League number 59 variants featuring Snyder Cut covers by Jim Lee, who is a friend of Zach's, Liam Sharp, and Lee Bermejo. There will also be black and white incentive variants to each cover. And one of the problems, and this is now inside baseball for me working at a comic shop, is that due to the covers being solicited 2 days before the book's FOC, and to anyone not in the know, FOC means final order cutoff. So every week we can adjust our numbers for that week's set of books, up or down most of the time. But Lunar will be sending shops 5 copies of each cover free of charge. And that's one thing that happened at my shop, where I did the final order cutoff order for that week's DC books. And then Lunar or DC or whoever decided, oh, by the way, there's also these 3 Snyder Cut variants. And I know most of you already submitted your orders and these weren't a part of that original order. So, and I was upset because I'm like, I want those. I'm a big Snyder Cut guy. I want to support this. I had to go on eBay and buy them from an online seller at a premium, but it is what it is. I wanted to get these covers, and to kind of offend this, Lunar is instead going, okay, I know most shops weren't able to get in their orders for these, so we're just going to send you 5 of each, which at free of charge. Like, yeah, they're charging us for shipping. It is what it is, but at least we're getting some covers at one point. And I think that's really neat. We're seeing the official Justice League merchandise coming out. We're getting all of those t-shirts added to the DC shop, and now there's variant covers that are releasing in comics. And I think due to the nature of them releasing these kind of quickly and rushed and not well planned out, that to me is a good thing, because it's telling me that AT&T or the powers that be are saying, oh shit, this really is going to be bigger than we anticipated. Because obviously they didn't plan to do Funko Pops. They didn't plan to do variants. And now that they're seeing all of the, it's going to be Warner Brothers' most viewed trailer of all time in probably a few days here now. But they're seeing all of these numbers and going, we should probably merchandise the hell out of this. And I think that's only a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that there is actually merchandise going to be coming out for it. The covers look really good, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look
interesting. I didn't realize at first that they were all number 59. I thought it was going to be 3 different issues of Justice League that were going to be covers for the Snyder Cut. Mm-hmm. But that is really cool. So the other question is then, did you get the black and white incentive variants as well, or just the standard?
So I got the 1 in 25. I didn't get the 1 in 100 because those, all of these are selling at a premium. So the 1 in 100, which normally is about $100, eBayers are selling them for 2 to 3 times the amount. So I think that's going to be one that I'm going to hold off and wait for it to hopefully cool off. And because usually that happens with the 1 in 100s, where eventually, the price kind of drops a little bit, especially on the black and white ones. So I'm just going to kind of cross my fingers on that one.
Fair enough. I'm sure that eventually, it will die off enough that you can get it for a reasonable price on the secondary market.
And the last news story here comes from Variety. This was all over Twitter. It was a big news story. It was all over Newsarama, Bleeding Cool. And I know you guys aren't as entrenched into the Snyder Cut fandom, but I think this speaks to the movie industry in general with how Warner Brothers handled it. So I'm sure there's ways to relate it to, even fandom, even gaming, with how these big companies handle these creators. Variety released this article that answered a bunch of questions about the Snyder Cut backstory last week. One of the things was that Zack Snyder wanted to include a subplot in Justice League in which Bruce falls for Lois Lane and has this internal conflict over bringing Superman back to life. He knows the world needs Superman back. He knows Lois is in love with her, but at the same time, he goes on to describe that Lois is almost that chance of him having a life outside of Batman, a chance at happiness. And we've seen, I saw people freaking out online, but we've seen this before in the animated series with the crossover between Batman Superman. It released as, I think, a 2-part episode, and then they eventually compiled it into a direct-to-video movie called I don't even remember what they called it, but I just watched it from Superman the Animated Series, and that's one in which Lois Lane she falls for Bruce, but she has feelings for Superman, but doesn't have feelings for Clark and doesn't have feelings for Batman. So that's kind of where this duality comes in of all of these 3 characters, where Bruce and Clark cannot be what Lois wants without her knowing their identities. And it's not until later on in the series that Clark is able to be truthful or honest with Lois, and that's when they have a relationship, and you see that in the comics today. But did either of you have strong feelings over Lois Lane being yet another one of Bruce's escapades?
I mean, I've seen the Superman animated series from the 90s, and I remember Lois she started dating Bruce Wayne, and then that's when Batman showed up in that series, and pretty much they're both, and then it's like Superman shows his jealousy a little bit over the whole situation. So it's like I'm used to and then she finds out that Bruce is Batman, and she's like, not into him anymore. But this scene, it's like it's an interesting, it's like it's not. And I've seen it in other things. It's not that it's not. It's an interesting concept. It's like I'm surprised you'd see that in the movie, and also it makes sense. Who wouldn't fall in love with Amy Adams? She's gorgeous.
Yes.
But this whole thing is just like this whole thing's been interesting to. I actually heard about this before getting on. I'm like, oh, this has been interesting to hear about. Seeing some people like. Have you not heard about this before? Mm-hmm. For some people, and then some people being like, "This is new. It's crazy. How had you done this before? They never done this. This is interesting."
Yeah, as far as I go, I don't really have strong feelings about it because, again, there is a precedence for it, and even if there wasn't, he's doing something interesting with it, and not just throwing it in for no reason or just to have it there. There was actually intent and purpose behind it. That makes sense in that universe, especially. So it's perfectly fine. I don't see a reason to freak out about it or anything like that. I just think that's a little excessive to complain about.
It's something that Warner Brothers ended up bringing the axe down and not allowing him to do. So I don't think we'll see this in the Snyder Cut. I doubt they were able to film those scenes or even to script, but we will find out for sure next month. And one of the things that happened, too, is that after Justice League was screened at Warner Brothers, Zack famously has still to this day never seen that version of the film. Producers Deborah Snyder and Christopher Nolan told Zack, quote, "You can never see that movie," end quote. And Deborah, who is also Zack's wife, elaborated that it would have broken his heart creatively even, too. So that's one of the things that people on Twitter were like, find yourself someone in life like Deborah and find a best friend like Christopher Nolan, because they were really looking out for Zack on this one.
Is that where you got that picture of that one dude standing in front of, with the knives in front of it? It says Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan, yeah. Zack Snyder sleeping in bed.
That's the one.
Okay. So now this elaborates what you meant, what that whole little picture that you found on Twitter meant now, because all my information about this has come from your Twitter page. I'm going to be honest.
And the memes, yeah.
And the memes, the arguments, the information. It's like, because between you and OmniJam, I wouldn't know what the hell's going on. With some of the stuff going on, and with Omni, he's told me more about DC Universe things and DC movie things, and that I missed out on. You pretty much informed me about all this. Snyder Cut things, and it's been interesting to follow at times. Other times I'm just like, meh. It's not that. It's not that. It's like not that I don't care. It's just that after being betrayed for the third and final time with Marvel, I'm like, okay, I'm done with them. I'm done with them for a little while until they do something interesting.
No, I totally get that, and I relate because it's a weird period for superhero movies. Even with, I get a lot of hate on Twitter over, like recently, I didn't even include it in the news because I really don't care. They announced a Blue Beetle live action film that will use the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, which is the more modern Mexican American, I believe. I don't think he's straight Mexican. I think it is Mexican American.
I believe he's Mexican American.
And they announced a movie that they're going to do. And me as a Mexican American, I didn't care because unfortunately with this new set of films under Hamada, they're not great. They're trying to be superhero films as opposed to making good films. I don't want to see movies that are, well, that was good for a superhero film. I want to see movies, and this is for and this is why I don't like the MCU overall, is if they're not good films, I don't really want to see them. And that's what so far the track record has been, especially since Justice League. They're just subpar. They're not great. They're some of them are a little bit better than what you get out of the MCU, but that's also not saying a lot. And it's unfortunate. So far, I think the Snyder Cut is the only superhero movie from DC or Marvel, I guess, that I'm interested in. And that's different for Sony. I want to see Venom 2. I want to see Morbius. I'm excited for those, but it is what it is. I get you, Julian.
Spider-Man Far From Home burned a part of my soul that I don't think I'm ever going to get back.
By the way, it does look like the rights to Spider-Man are going back after the third movie to Sony.
Okay, fully to Sony, thank God.
That was announced recently that Tom Holland, I guess, mentioned that the rights would be, or that the third movie, Spider-Man movie, would be the last of the license.
Good.
Because they just... Oh my God! The ending to the Far From Home was already like a slog for me to get through. It ruined a date for me. I will never forget that. And then it also because I did not agree with my date on how he loved it, and I'm like, no, I hate this movie. I flat out said I hate this movie.
I still have not watched any of those, like either one of those Spider-Man movies.
You're not missing anything.
Yeah, Scott, trust me. It's like
I you think
that's when I had at first I'm like, okay.
Spider-Man.
Okay, so this isn't Spider-Man, it's Iron Spider now, whatever. It's fucking, and then they're like, oh no, it's Spider-Man again, because we're gonna, at the end of the movie, pretty much throw this huge bombshell at you, and then and everyone's like, okay, so, and as a Spider-Man fan, I'm like, oh right, so we're gonna just, instead of doing the thing where it's like Spider-Man doesn't, instead of trying to change Spider-Man, we're once again going with the tried and true example of anybody who puts on the Spider-Man suit has to be miserable, no matter what you do. It's like, okay, fine, whatever, I'm done with this.
Yeah, he's still Iron Man Jr. If you like Iron Man, you'll like the recent Spider-Man movies. So I'll leave that there.
I'm sorry. It's just, like I said, it burned a part of me that will never heal. Especially after seeing what Sony did, it's like, come on, you guys, this hurts.
We also got from this the interview, an anonymous studio executive at Warner Brothers told the magazine, quote, "When we got to see what Joss Whedon actually did, it was stupefying. The robber on the rooftop, so goofy and awful. The Russian family, so useless and pointless. Everyone knew it. It was so awkward because nobody wanted to admit what a piece of shit it was." End quote. I'm glad they remained anonymous because I'm sure even though everyone agreed on it, they would still probably get into trouble. And initially, sure, Warner Brothers did ask Zack to release his version of the film without the expensive touch-ups and without additional photography. I think we can talk about some of the play that these big companies have. And Zack said, quote, "I was like, that's a no. That's a hard no. Here's why. 3 reasons. 1, you get the internet off your back, which is probably your main reason for wanting to do this. 2, you get to feel vindicated for making things right, I guess, on some level. And then 3, you get a shitty version of the movie that you can point at and go, see, it's not that good anyway, so maybe I was right." And I was like, no chance. I would rather just have the Snyder Cut be a mythical unicorn for all time. End quote. It seems like he was looking far in the future and already knowing how these companies act, where they just want to be justified in their terrible decisions as opposed to trying to do right by the creatives.
Yeah.
Making terrible
I
decisions.
mean, it was going to be one of those situations where they weren't going to mention the fact that they limited him on things and just, here you go, here was the cut. And then that was going to be it. And then they can go to his point. See, look, it's bad.
Mhm.
And not mentioning the fact that, oh yeah, no, we didn't give him any CGI budget. We didn't give him anything else to do touch-ups, reshoot, whatever. It was just, nope, here's what was on the cutting room floor. We'll tape that back together the way you want it. Done. That would have been bad. Whereas now you'll get a more truer version of what he was going to give.
And they're going to reap the benefits of it, honestly. They really are.
Yeah, I mean, they're already with even the covers that have come out and the T-shirts that are going to be selling. They're going to reap the benefits of it. They're going to make their money, at least from the looks of it so far.
Mhm.
Like, the fans are buying it currently, so as long as they keep buying it, they'll be good.
And primarily HBO Max and AT&T on that one, since AT&T were the ones that came down on Warner Brothers and said, why aren't you getting this done? Why aren't we making this? There's money to be made. We're going to put it on HBO Max. HBO Max is promoting it. Warner Brothers still is refusing for whatever reason to promote this on Twitter or online, but that's all right. If they want to go still with this narrative of we were right, we never wanted to release this thing, and we rather lose money and be right than just look like the good guys and say, you know what, all right, maybe we were wrong, let's release this thing and support it. It's just amazing to me how the ego on this company, on Warner Brothers, is still holding themselves back, and it's funny at this point. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Snyder did also reveal that he is foregoing his salary for the Snyder Cut. He told the magazine, quote, "I'm not getting paid. I didn't want to be beholden to anyone, and it allowed me to keep my negotiating powers with these people pretty strong," end quote. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge positive that, once again, Zach, just I'm assuming from being in the industry so long, knows how they work and knows that if he doesn't get his salary, he can probably ask for more things and not have too much pushback.
Yeah, because it probably allows for a bigger budget for him to get things done because of the fact that you can say, well, I'm not getting paid, so use whatever my salary would have been for all this post-production stuff or a reshoot and things like that would have been an expensive thing on top of a salary. So I can definitely see how it would give him more negotiating power.
Have either of you seen...
Yeah, you're also not on the paycheck. Like, when you're not on the payroll, you have more freedom.
Have either of you seen something like this happen in the world of anime or gaming, where someone will forego their salary for, I guess, a passion project or in negotiating tactics or for the greater, quote unquote, good?
The closest thing I could have seen to it was literally one of my current gaming obsessions right now is Final Fantasy 14, where the initial one of it, where I've seen one where the complete and total opposite of a company, like, actually admitting their faults, where Square Enix, the head of Square Enix, the head of the original Final Fantasy 14, and like a bunch of the other higher ups, all went to a press conference, bowed in front of everybody, saying, "Forgive us for this game," and they said, we're going to burn down the game. Like the original engine, which was based off Final Fantasy 13 engine, they burned that. They took that engine, burned it, got rid of it, made a new engine, hired a new director whose only claim to fame was Dragon Quest stuff, and now it's an MMO that's freaking like competing with like WoW at this point. And it's amazing when a company actually admits, "Hey, we fucked up. We fucked up. We admit that we fucked up, and that we could do better." And it's now making them buku amounts of money, to the point where usually, like, after a certain point, MMOs just like have their moments where they just fall off and where they eventually fade away. But at this point, they're like, they're gonna let the director for Final Fantasy 14 like keep making this game until he gets tired of it. Because they know it's like, this is making us money. It's making us more money than our actual main series right now. So we have to keep pumping this. So we have to keep pumping this out. And them just taking the L on it showed more fruit than actually just being stubborn and saying, no, it's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's fine. This burning dumpster fire is fine.
We need some of that humility in these companies here in the U.S., that's for sure.
Yeah, from what I can tell, it's a very Japanese thing. Because even like with Nintendo, when the Wii U failed, it was all of the executives took 50-60% pay cuts because they're like, we're the ones that gave the orders. We're the ones that pushed all this. So instead of getting rid of employees, doing any of that, it was, no, we will be the ones to suffer. We will be the ones punished. And things like that, versus in the US, a lot of these big companies will protect the higher-ups before anything else.
You don't see that. We haven't. There's nothing in anime that's like that. It's usually because with anime, it's like
particular. I mean,
or usually with anime, it's like
an example, but I
like, you have the manga.
think of one. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, anime's like, you got the manga. Why are you complaining?
Especially with Inuyasha, it was. Oh, here's the end of the anime. By the way, read the manga if you want to know how it ends.
And then like 5 years later, like 5, 6, 7 years later, it's like, okay, we'll finish the anime now.
Oh, so they're actually finishing. So aside from the sequel that's going on now, they're actually finishing the original run.
It already
they finished the original one.
Inuyasha Final Act.
Yes, they finished it. It was Inuyasha Final Act. And then now they're doing the sequel, which I don't even know was a manga.
It is not. There is no manga version of Yashahime. It is purely an anime.
You know, that's but then but unfortunately with anime we're used to that. It's like you want to see how this continue. And the anime, like a lot of animes, get like one season and then it's over, and then they end and it's like, okay, if you want more of this, read the manga. Some of them don't actually just flat out say it like Inuyasha did.
Yeah,
but you know that's how that's how that whole thing goes. But with the video game companies, it's like when a lot of Japanese companies fuck up, usually they tend to be like, we messed up, we didn't do very well. You know,
yeah, and then U.S. companies will just fire the whole team, like Mass Effect,
like freaking Mass Effect,
Fable,
or Bethesda, just like doubling down on it. It's like, it's fine, we'll fix this later. You just take it now. Just take this turd that we gave you, and we're gonna put gold powder on it, and then it'll finally actually be a golden nugget. It's like, no, but there's still shit. But the stink of shit underneath has already ruined this for me, so I don't want it anymore.
I hope that whatever comes out of the Snyder Cut changes things for some creatives in the future. We've already seen that with hopefully Ray Fisher, and how some of these Buffy cast have come out and talked about Joss Whedon. As Zach has put it, it's a special occasion on many fronts, not just because, regardless of how it's received by critics, because we already know they've admitted on Twitter already that they have their reviews written. They're ready to torpedo this thing. But as we've said from the beginning, this isn't about making a movie for critics. This is about finishing Zach's vision. It's about doing right by the crew, making sure that they all get paid, because some of them were completely cut out of the Snyder Cut, from the theatrical cut. So there's so many rights that are being done with this project, and I think that's because we don't have those behaviors like they do in Japan of companies trying to make right from the get-go, sometimes before even a project gets released, that things like this are an exception and are viewed as a special thing. And it is a very special thing due to all the money, the charity that's been raised for suicide prevention and that's still being raised for those causes. But it is, I do hope and I want to see more of this kind of creative do-rights in future projects, or even from things that have already released, like David Ayer's Suicide Squad. But time will tell. I think later on this year, we will see how this is what comes out of this special project for our film.
I really sucked about Buffy.
Yeah.
I sucked about Buffy. I like Buffy.
It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. And I would not be shocked if they started taking Joss Whedon's name out of like the comics that are currently releasing. They have, in big bold letters right now on the covers, they have Joss Whedon's Firefly, and then they'll have the actual comic writers. I'm hoping that after all of this nonsense that is now coming out of all these terrible behaviors that Joss had, that Dark Horse and these other companies can finally remove his name from these projects and not want to be associated to such a terrible person.
Even if the series itself is, at least kind of distance it to a bit by at least not having his name on it.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting to see a pattern going on with these Disney-owned properties and bad directors. Bad directors with Yeah, directors.
Yeah, these things always come out in time. The truth
Like
ends up coming out one way or the other.
Like Terry Rossio from the pirate stuff. Wow, he is an idiot. But anyway.
But there you have it, everyone. That was our news for the week. I do want to give a shout out as well to William C. He came to the shop and dropped off a Pikachu Happy Meal box. He had heard the previous week's episode, and Palpa Kelly and I were talking about how these eBayers were hoarding these Happy Meal boxes. And even Kelly was saying, from that picture that they showed of this person on their table, they just had over 20 of them. And Kelly was like, I thought that was the back room to McDonald's. I'm like, no, that's a collector. That's an eBayer. That's a reseller. And William was kind enough to keep us in mind and dropped off the Pikachu Happy Meal box along with the goodies inside, the Pokemon cards, the envelope. And Kelly was ecstatic that Pikachu is our favorite Pokemon. You know, I would kill for a Bulbasaur Happy Meal box. And for her, you know, she got to see a Happy Meal shaped like Pikachu, or Pikachu shaped like a Happy Meal, and it was just really cool. Thank you again, William, for thinking of us and dropping that off. Have either of you have either of you even attempted to get any of these Happy Meal Pokemon products?
No, I have
wild,
heard
no.
about.
I have bought one on eBay though. Like,
Yeah, what was it you had picked up? Was it the full thing?
so it's the cardboard sleeve along with the pack that's inside.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and that I was able to get for I think 12. So it wasn't too breaking the bank, and I plan to just leave it completely sealed as is. That's my remembrance of the Pokemon 25th anniversary.
I did read an article about McDonald's actually telling their employees about teaching their employees about how scalpers work and how to limit these things.
Good.
If someone
But they can
comes
only
in
do
buying
so
a
much.
bunch
They
of
can only
it,
do so much because just like with us, just like with Walmart right now, I'm still getting fucking phone calls for Pokemon
Of
cards,
course.
and it's like, guess what, bitches? We don't have any more. They're not getting ported. They're not getting ported from the other country anymore. Fucking stop asking.
That's amazing. I feel for you,
the
man.
cards themselves because they're tired of they're like, oh no, the Rogan Paul is coming to take is using our cards. Stop productions.
It's crazy. I still get the daily phone calls. I know the boss man will tell, when he's working the store, he will tell them, we usually don't get gaming shipments until this day. And for me, I cringe because part of me is like, I don't work on that day, but I'm like, I feel bad for my full-timer and my part-timer because they're already busy enough on the gaming shipment day to then have these Pokemon flippers show up to the store just to see and waiting there to see what came out. Like, I usually tell them the following day because that's when the product's already priced and out in anyway. So, but yeah, it's terrible, man. I feel you because I get those phone calls every day and they call regardless. Even when they know that we don't get our Pokemon product until a certain day, they still check every day. And it is what it is. You know, I think the bubble, again, will burst at some point, probably late this year. It's not going to be anytime soon, but it will eventually fade and the eBayers will move on to something else.
Because Walmart's not getting it because we've already gotten I've already looked into it from corporate Walmart stuff. They're not getting any. They don't care. It's like we're not getting any more. We're not gonna because it's a third party company that brings our stuff and they're not gonna deliver it. They're not gonna put any effort into it. We've already replaced the entire card collecting area.
Wow.
Placed all the other stuff placed everything in a different department and moved on.
I like that.
It's
I like
weird
that
'cause
approach.
There's a lot of money being missed on that as far as for in the future where it's like, yeah, we're wanting to keep selling those cards.
I just
Because
love
we
that.
it was already bad enough we had the baseball and football. We had the sports card scalpers already.
And I'm sure those
And
get stolen
the
all
fact
the
of
time.
them being stolen in general.
I was just saying, I love that idea of Walmart going, we make enough. We'll be fine.
Yeah. I know Target's just been replacing them with Magic the Gathering since that doesn't sell.
No, it does
People are
not.
still trying to buy freaking cleaning supplies in bulk from us. We're fine.
But there you have it, everyone. Our news for the week, and for the most part, the episode, I think. Go ahead and let them know where our Brokehead Core companion can find you, where you stream at, and your Twitter and or Instagrams.
So you can find us on Twitter at LazyGamingGuys, and you can find us on YouTube as also LazyGamingGuys. And you can find on the Twitter account pinned a Discord invite. So if you want to join the LGG Discord, you can. And we also, I believe, have a link to the podcast that is up. That goes up mostly frequently.
And you stream every Wednesday night, 10:30ish Eastern?
Every Wednesday night at between 10 to 10:30 Eastern, depending on like how fast we can get everything up and running. But yeah.
And also depending on when people actually want to show up on time.
Yeah, Julian.
No, excuse me. We all know who we're talking about. He's never going to hear this, so it doesn't. He's never going to hear it.
No.
Never going to hear it. But I will tell him that we did talk shit.
But yeah. So you can join us every Wednesday night at between 10 and 10:30 p.m. We stream. We typically rotate streams, so you'll see different style games between each of the three of us. So maybe if one week you don't really care for that game, tune in next week. It'll be completely different.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much once again for being the co-hosts of today's episode. I really do appreciate it, and it means a lot to me. And as I've mentioned before in the past with other guests, this isn't, to me on my side, it doesn't feel like these are, my co-hosts or guests. These are my friends, and I'm having a conversation with them. And hopefully that comes through on the other side for you. And I think that's what's going to make this a more enjoyable experience for not just myself. If I'm having fun with it, then that'll keep me going, but also for the member on the other side. And hopefully they hear that too. So thank you guys once again for joining on.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, you're welcome. And do not worry. We won't, when we finally absorb your show into our channel, we won't destroy you.
That could happen, yeah.
We've already absorbed one, so.
I don't know. At this point, it's a tug of war. At this point, who knows? We don't know yet.
And to you on the other side, if you want to be heard on the show, you can leave us a voicemail. Link is in the description. You will also find a link to Lazy Gaming Guys on the description of today's show. But in case you want that voicemail link, it is speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke. You can send in a comment or question, 90 seconds or less, and we may showcase it right here on next week's episode. Otherwise, there's also a link on everywhere you can find us at thereasonsimbroke.com. So thank you all once again for joining on. I've been Daniel, and all will be well. Least favorite Pokemon and why? I think I know Scott's, but let's hear Julian's.
Oh, least favorite Pokemon? My least favorite Pokemon. Oh God, I don't know what to say. My least favorite Pokemon would be one of the newer ones. I'm trying to remember its name off the top of my head.
You don't have them memorized?
Oh, I don't. Oh no! You think I actually have the new Pokemon memorized? You're cute. Okay, I think it's Dracovolt. Something. Oh, it's the new fossil Pokemon. It bugs me as a person who enjoys symmetry a little bit. It bugs my OCD brain about it's like a normal dinosaur butt, but then like it's like this little tiny yellow dinosaur body connected to it. It's the derpiest looking thing. And then there's like an ice version where it's like shivering all the time. It's like, how is this comfortable? That thing's cold. Someone get that dinosaur jacket.
How about you, Scott?
That's what it needs. So I know there's the obvious one of Charizard.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Lizard.
I feel like you hate it because it's popular.
Who wants a dragon-looking Pokemon that's not even a dragon Pokemon?
Its stats are also garbage. Let's be honest, it's not a great Pokemon.
No, the other one is Dunsparce. It's just so useless.
You leave Dunsparce alone. Dunsparce is adorable.
It's so useless.
It doesn't matter if it's useless, it's adorable.
No, you want a useless, adorable Pokemon, you get Bidoof. Or Bibarel.
I don't understand why you like Bidoof or Bibarel. And you know what? They're not useless. They actually have decent stats. And if you work with, I actually beat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for someone who I actually beat one of my platinum versions at platinum replays with the Bidoof. That was not hard. It was pretty easy, especially since it's a freaking HM tank and it can and when you put surf and waterfall on that bitch, it actually does a lot of damage.
Fun fact, there is a meme category for speedrunners of Pokemon Platinum that they beat the game with Bibarel.
Wow.
And they only use Bibarel.
No,
And
that's not crazy.
They use the starter as the HM slave. Which is really
That's cruel.
entertaining.